Thank you, Taryn. And since I'm last, understanding that I'm last, I promise I won't be boring. Like Taryn said, I'm Valencia. I actually started the Vote Everywhere program at LSU back, I'm not going to tell you how long ago, but I was one of the first sets of ambassadors at LSU. And so I will get started. Also, I'm going to veer slightly off topic to go back to the Alumni Association. Please talk to Joni and I while we're here. We love talking. We love working with ambassadors, and we've worked with them in the past. We've worked with a couple of you, and so we really want you to talk to us about how we can connect you with former ambassadors who are now like off doing really cool things. You saw just the 4 of them, and they're like really incredible. But anyways, okay. So like I said, started the Vote Everywhere program at LSU some years ago, and we were incredibly excited about doing this. And so we started this whole thing that was mentioned earlier, Go Vote LSU. It's even like the EAUX, because we're Tigers and we're from Louisiana, and everything that ends with an O has to have that spelling. And so we were like, Go Vote LSU. We are going to register voters. We are going to go out there. We are changing democracy. And so we schlepped ourselves out into Free Speech Alley, our free speech area at LSU, every single week, looking to register voters. And we would get like 2 voter registration forms, and we'd be like, okay, so maybe we're not like changing democracy that much, but we're like, we're getting there, 2 is fine. And we would just go out there every single week, and then just like the lowest numbers ever. And we were like, okay, like, the jig is up, like what's happening? Like why are we not registering any voters? I did some research on my undergraduate honors thesis, and while we were doing that, I also was just taking like anecdotal notes, like while we were registering voters, what is happening? And the common problem, and this is gonna be a really familiar story from here on out for a lot of you, IDs. We had, in the state of Louisiana, our current law is to use your ID to vote, any ID, you need a full name, a photo, and a signature. What didn't the LSU student ID have? A signature. What didn't every single ID in the state of Louisiana have? A signature. So we saw that, oh, okay, maybe we could probably register voters if they were actually able to register to vote, because they don't have the proper ID. LSU has the largest out-of-state population in the state of Louisiana. A large number of students come from out of state wanting to plant roots in the state but don't have a driver's license that's recognized by the state of Louisiana, and this is their only form of ID. This is such a common story. I think I'm like replaying this. Some of you and some of your other states I know have had this same problem. And so we presented our research to the Louisiana Secretary of State. We presented our research and kind of like kicked my foot down the door of the president's office. We presented our research to him, and he started that relationship, and we said, look, here's the problem, here's what we found. He was really on board with helping us. And then we found a state legislator who said, oh, well, this could help me. And so we brought the Secretary of State, we brought LSU's president to the state legislature, and we presented a bill which passed, and we got to witness the signing of that effective 2019, but actually most of the public universities in the state are now complying already, but effective January 2019, every 4-year public university in the state of Louisiana will have to make their IDs compliant with the state law, i.e. every public university in Louisiana has to add a signature to their student ID so that students can use them to vote. And so that was our And so looking back, again, this is definitely a familiar story for all of you. So this sucks across the country. Laws, I can tell you, the state of Tennessee, for example, and the state of South Carolina, where they explicitly tell you if you go to the election laws or if you go online, and it says students are not allowed to use their student IDs to vote. I don't consider Texas a part of the South, but for the sake of this talk, we will make it so. Texas, you can use your gun permit, but you can't use your student ID to vote. And we see there with Arizona. And then you've got states like Georgia who are more complicated, who have like a list of schools that can, and then the other schools who aren't on that list, like you're just, out of luck. And it just gets more complicated from there. So here's what we're going to do about it here at AGF. And a lot of this is not new information to some of the ambassadors I've already reached out to, but we are going to raise awareness to this issue, all of these southern states. Some states have it better off than others. Louisiana has it better off than, say, poor Tennessee, poor South Carolina. Florida has it better off than Virginia. And North Carolina is like a tricky situation. We're going to talk about North Carolina in a second, actually. And we're going to join together and we're going to raise awareness about this issue. Hey, you're welcome. My heart is in the South. I care about nothing else in this country. I care about nothing else. I live in DC right now. It's terrible. Nothing else. So I want to back it up a little bit and just like give an overview of how I found this out and where I looked and where I turned to. I'm a law student, so all of this like geeky law stuff really is like my jam. So state election codes is my first step. Even if you're not a law student, we had to turn to the election code when we were looking at the ID law in Louisiana. I personally recommend that everyone looks up their state election code just so they know what they're allowed to do. It's really, especially not just ID laws, but state election codes dictate polling places on campuses. They dictate early voting locations, like Megan's current issue. They dictate absentee ballot policies as well. So I just think that you don't have to be as crazy as me and and have read all the election codes for all of these states, but you should definitely know your states and be your state's expert. And then online resources and contacting local election officials. I just want to really hone in this point because I think this is a problem that a lot of campuses have, is that different counties, and Dana touched on this a lot, have different ways of interpreting their state's law. And so you should really know what your county sounds weird for me to say because in Louisiana we have parishes. But what your county registrar has to say about a certain law is really important. Okay. And so doing the research, we're gonna go step back as an example for North Carolina. So North Carolina is crazy. Their voting rights laws are constantly in flux. When we were starting this research, I said, oh, North Carolina is my easy state because right now they don't have a voter ID law. They don't need to use any IDs to vote. And then guess who gets a Google alert saying, oh, there's going to be a ballot initiative making a constitutional amendment in the state of North Carolina so that people have to use voter ID. And so in November, we have to change our strategy now. It's now gone from voter information to how in the heck are we going to prevent this constitutional amendment from being enacted so that students can still go to the polls without having to use oppressive voter ID. And so that's just a takeaway of how things are constantly changing, especially when you're researching laws. And as a law student, I can tell you things I learned yesterday may not be relevant tomorrow. Laws change by the flip of a court order, by the flip of a legislature. And so, going back to the challenge, there's my other former ambassador, and she was team leader when Lewis was first a little baby ambassador. And she's holding her new ID, and we're going to challenge each other. So all of these states have different laws. Some are doing better than others, like I said. what we're going to do as ambassadors and as Southern representatives who really like to compete with other Southern states and other Southern schools is say, oh, hi, I'm at LSU and you're doing, and we can use our IDs. Can the University of Alabama, y'all can, but we're going to just use y'all example. So University of Alabama can, tiger bait. But who cannot? Certain schools in Georgia. So certain schools in Georgia, a couple of y'all are here, may or may not be able to use your student ID because you're not on some arbitrary list. And so I think the point is that we are building this coalition and movement of Southern schools in Southern states to raise awareness of the fact that there are some students who can use their student ID and some students who can't. And how are we going to make sure that every student in all of these campuses has the right ID to vote and make it more fair so that every student has that right and that they're entitled to. You're a student, why can't you use your student ID? You pay for the thing. So yeah. I just wanted to leave y'all with a quote, and I'm glad I went last because this is kind of apt for everyone. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. My group of Southern ambassadors are about to change the South, and we are so excited about it. We are so excited about it. But any of you have that power, and I'm really glad. And if any of you actually want to get involved as well, just reach out to me. Thank you. And questions?